We are live. I'm Rich Lieberman. It is Tuesday, and this is the Bay Area Media Pulse. This is the site where there is no bias toward advertisers. There is no beholden to special interests who have an agenda, who put out their version of what they deem their truth, and is nothing but a bunch of verbal gobbledygook. I'm going to give you the real deal, the inside dope at times, but most importantly, transparency. Now, I have been talking about this Ronn Owens, Jan Black, Laura Owens situation for a while now. When I first found out about this whole drama, mostly having to do with Laura Owens, I sort of took a back seat on purpose. I stated many a times I didn't want to get involved in some kind of a TMZ-ish tabloid press type of drama. And that's no knock on the story itself. The story itself is very legit and very much news because it involves Laura Owens, who is, of course, the daughter of Ronn Owens and Jan Black, both very highly regarded, maybe up until now, Bay Area media people. In the case of Ronn, a Marconi winner, Radio Hall of Famer, 40 plus years at KGO, quite a very, very respected, with good reason, broadcast journalist, talk show host, etc., etc. I myself have lauded Ronn Owens, Jan Black also, maybe not all the awards, but certainly a very prominent Bay Area media figure. I'm just going to keep you up to date with what is going on here. And of course, on Sunday, I came on the air and told you about Ronn and Jan Black having to declare bankruptcy, Chapter 13, last Thursday. Had an hour-long discussion with some of you, and we talked about what was going on. And I also, at the beginning of the year, noted the fact that when Ronn, at the beginning of the year, and Jan talked about life's obstacles and that challenges had hit them, that they were asking you folks for help in the form of money. They set up a GoFundMe page, which to this date has raised somewhere around $131,000. Now, after a little bit of hemming and hawing and investigating on my own, I wondered aloud, where was that money going? And Ronn had stated, along with Jan, that they had been dealing with issues, which most of us do deal. Some of the issues are not that big. Some of them can be quite irksome. And I myself, after a great degree of investigating and phone calling and trying to put two and two together, all the while staying clear of the Laura Owens criminal case and ensuing indictments against their daughter, had stated publicly, right here, where is this money going? What is happening? Where is this money going? There's a lot of money that's being raised. And I had stated, and in fact, after raising that issue by myself, I may add, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just stating it part of the record here. I wondered aloud, where is this money going? Is it, in fact, being funneled to help defray the costs of the lawyers involved in defending Laura Owens? And I contacted Ronn, and I contacted Jan Black, and they vehemently denied any kind of onerous type of donations from that account to help defray the costs and to pay the lawyers involved in defending their daughter. That was before the indictments came down in Arizona, and subsequent, we had some very serious allegations involving one Laura Owens. Now, I know about Ronn's medical maladies and Parkinson's and the cancer diagnosis and all that. Understand that. I've put that aside. We've talked about his very generous pension from SAG AFTRA, also along with his wife, Jan Black. And yet, all the while, still wondering aloud, where is this money going then? The $131,000 raised on the GoFundMe money. And I contacted Ronn again and Jan and said, guys, and I'm sort of biased, but I'm trying to be transparent. I'm trying to be the man in the middle and not being looked upon as somebody that's been loyal to Ronn, even though we had a very fractured relationship about 2 years ago because I had criticized him and mocked him and belittled him and soured on him for what I considered to be a very, very illegitimate and poor behavior with regards to his treatment of the clowns at Cumulus, which took over the radio station he had spent the better part of 4 decades. But we had a come to Jesus moment. At least I did. And I said, let's put bygones be bygones. Let's just start anew. And then the Laura Owens story began to emerge about 2 years ago. And I asked Ronn and Jan directly what is going on, because there was a perception that somehow maybe Rich, Lieberman, who suddenly stopped talking about the whole case to begin with and everything else, maybe I was, I don't know, paid off. I've told all of you folks that's not the case. Nothing whatsoever. I volunteered, bank records, whatever you want, because it was simply the perception, whatever you want to call it, was untrue. I'm giving you a background before I talk about what I'm going to talk about today and finally clear the air on my own end. So they told me, both Ronn and Jan, that the lawyers were doing their work for Laura, namely this one guy, this David Gingras, who's somewhat perhaps now has character issues himself. But they said no, not that the lawyers were working for free, at least initially. Now you have word, again, broken here, about the bankruptcy Chapter 13 issuance last Thursday. And I came on here Sunday night and talked about that and stated once again, I went back and have called Ronn and Jan Black and asked them to clarify what is going on. Now, I know there are certain things that they can't talk about, which is fine. And impending legal indictments against daughter Laura, but that they can at least clarify the other issue, which is not under litigation, does not have legal situations involved around it, and that's the GoFundMe money. And I looked at and checked out with a great degree of journalistic work and checking and calling and texting and trying to get to the bottom of without having to rely upon Ronn and or Jan, because their daughter is in legal, purgatory. They have a few things on their mind, and I get that. And I'm the one who's been saying that for months now. Understand, folks, as I said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing my own language, but something to the effect of, these people are parents. They're helping their daughter out. They're trying to be supportive of their daughter, as any parents would be, I would imagine, or son, what have you. That's their kids. Subsequently, I have found out since my broadcast last Sunday, a couple of nights ago, that Ronn and or Jan has not been entirely truthful with me. And I resent that. Even in off-the-record conversations, of which I have had plenty. And I will honor that because it is off the record, or was. And now comes out the fact that the money that was raised, the $131,000 from the GoFundMe account, and now the subsequent filing of the Chapter 13, where is the money going? Anybody would have a legitimate sort of type of reaction. And I'm in the middle of this now once again, because again, the perception is perhaps I am being too lenient with offering support for both Ron and Jan, and have been made to look like a complete and utter fucking dork while I sit here and try to be fair and to try to offer a very legitimate amount of grief and anxiety and angst and all of that. Perfectly normal. Yet my anger today, which by the way was one of the reasons why I was not on the air Monday, was the fact that now you have the bullshit press that we have here in San Francisco, which used to be the cornerstone of journalism, the birthplace of the freedom of speech movement. And now we're reduced to the non-fucking newspapers like SF Crap Gate that covers burrito store openings and restaurant closures, but really doesn't cover news. Now, all of a sudden, after Sunday night, they get involved with the Ronn Owens, Laura Owens, Jan Black situation. Geez, what a coincidence. Same thing with the San Jose Mercury, another once great newspaper. Well, not the Chronicle. Chronicle has been a joke since years and years ago, but at least had some degree of credibility because they had honest reporters. And when they didn't have these pimple-faced assholes doubling down as alleged reporters, sitting at their computers eating alfalfa sandwiches, and that was their line of work, they suddenly got back into the game. Thank you, Hearst, with this stupid, ridiculous SF Gate, which is a clickbait factory. Never mind. But let's go back to the main thing here. All of a sudden, the Chronicle's got an article yesterday, and the Mercury News put out an article yesterday. They got back into the game. Meanwhile, some of their little interns sending me love letters saying that, why do you concentrate on Ron Owens? Why do you concentrate on Jan Black? It's not a story. They're retired. And nobody cares about Laura Owens and Laura. And you know what? I used to think that myself until I realized that, no, it's a news story. And there are little tentacles, like an octopus has tentacles upon tentacles. And all of a sudden, by me talking about it again, by me openly trying to figure out where the money was going that the Owens had said had befallen them, and that life's challenges, so all these various words to obfuscate from the fact that damn right, damn straight, some of that money was going to legal people. And I don't know how or directly, but you know what? I put two and two together, and now the gloves are off. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally off the wall, but I do believe this. Some of that money or all of that, I don't know. But you have to pay lawyers. Lawyers do not work and breathe and eat whatever they eat free. They live like all of us do. They have expenses. They have kids and family and all the things required to live. And why am I angry? Because I have been dealt a lot of bullshit by not just Ron and Jan, I think. It's my opinion, by a lot of people who told me to lay off them. All the while, I only belittled this person, this megastar, this once great San Francisco radio luminary, for the better part of a decade, belittling him and calling him basically a radio whore, a bitch, the way he handled the KGO demise. And I had KGO people telling me, leave him alone, which I did, which led me to publicly say, Ron, Will I ever agree with you in the manner in which you handled the demise of KGO and the way you acted? No. But I want to put bygones be bygones into the mode. I'd like to restore our friendship. We had a really cool friendship. You were my Ron. You were my cousin Brucey. Those of you who don't know who cousin Brucey is, do a search. You'll find out. And Jan, all your ranting and lecturing me and telling me on the phone in so many words, Rich, it's all those people, the Dave Neals, the Laurens of the world, the Ninja Turtles and Sninja Turtles of the world who are trying to make something out of nothing. They're just looking for money. They're trying to support The Bachelor and other men. They want to make money. And I was standing there and looking and saying to myself, well, maybe Ron and Jan and a few others, maybe they're telling a point. Maybe they're telling something that exists. And I believe them. I said here, why wouldn't I believe them? And now you have the subsequent quote by Jan about the GoFundMe money, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which, look, in the world in which we live in, yes, people do have problems. People get beset by specific things that happen to them. And life does present obstacles to all of us, even some of us who don't make $25,000 a month, who did not make $1.5 million a year for 5 to 10 years, all the while claiming that we had issues and financial issues. All of this before a daughter got involved with certain things that maybe happened and necessitated financial quagmires that resulted in subsequent financial settlements and the issuance of Chapter 13. I want the truth. And I gave every opportunity for Ron and Jan to come clean with me. And I say come clean, not that they weren't clean. I realize that you can't talk about certain things. But when you suddenly become conveniently silent, all the while reaching out to me multiple times, the other side is crap. They're all con artists. They're trying to make money, yada, yada, yada. And then subsequently, these developments ensue. I get angry. And I feel I've not only been used, I feel not only have I been put in a very compromising situation, which, by the way, involves my own situation, which isn't that pretty to begin with. But I'll leave that to a bunch of people who, because I belittle them and call them out because they can't cover a story, you couldn't lead a hooker to a strip show, I get the, black swan treatment. Fine, I can take it. I'm a big boy. I get it. I criticize here the press, the manner in which they conduct themselves, the degree to which right now this market has become so cumbersome, and I'm being polite, so assholish, so belittling, and talk about marginalized, that they couldn't cover any goddamn story if their life depended on it, who make references in articles with regards to the Chapter 13. And the fact that when they make references to that money that was raised to a tune of $131,000 was questioned by online interests. Yeah, who? Who is that online interest? And when I go out of my way not to besmirch, not to belittle, and to give credence to the fact that this is a couple with children, one of whom is a daughter that they very much love and support. We get all that. I get it. It is difficult. And I've said so myself here, for God's sakes. And yes, I'm angry. I'm angry because you guys deserve the truth. You do. Not all of it, but most of it. And I see all this tap dancing around the bullshit. Of goddamn course, some of that money had to go to lawyers or wherever. What? Are we morons? I'm not. I put two and two to. Well, let's see. We vehemently deny. We didn't give a penny to lawyers. Well, then where's the fucking money going? Where is it? You got the house. You sold the house in San Francisco at Seacliff. You've had 9 mortgages in the past 10 years or whatever. Documents show. The credit card records and all that with owing money to creditors and all that, that's out there. And I'm not going to make any kind of judgments with regards to that. Yes, we do. We all have issues in life that come. I have issues every goddamn moment. I'm yelling and screaming, trying to get a nickel that I could rub together here on my own site so that I could eat McDonald's and have a cup of coffee while these mumheads are doling out 5,000, 100, 500, thousands of dollars to a defense fund, a GoFundMe, all the while being very mum and quiet about just where the money is going. Where is it going? Where? You got the pension, you got the hospital, you got the medical insurance provided by SAG after. Where is the money going? Where? That's not under microscope. It might be under mine. Has nothing to do with the daughter. Then let's see it. Let's have some culpability. Let's have some of that. And I'm not coming down on you guys, Ron and Jan Black. I'm just asking for not your truth, not my truth, not any of these, Dave Neal or Lauren's truth. There is only one truth, the truth. All of a sudden, when it's convenient to contact me and to say things and to offer things, now we're going to go quiet. We're going to refuse to talk, even off the record moments. Now, I'm not angry about that. I've dealt with issues with not just public people, private people, people in the public eye too. People not under a microscope like Ron and Jan indirectly because of their daughter's actions, one way or the other, above the law, with the law, not within the law. I get all of that. But there's human behavior. There are certain things that you can talk about, that you can clarify. You ever heard of that word? Clarify. You explain certain things. So therefore, other people involved, even not wanting to be involved, but doing something, and not to sound holier than thou here, folks, but I want to state the record clearly. It is news. Yes. Sometimes news ain't pretty. Sometimes even me, the black swan, the so-called asshole who dares to criticize and rip and belittle the Bay Area press because it has become so toxic and ridiculous and inept. And that includes the TV stations and the stupid little radio stations, although we don't have radio in the Bay Area. We're in Siberia when it comes to that department. But the very little press that we have. So all of a sudden, when they're ignoring, and then after a certain radio broadcast or YouTube broadcast on this past Sunday night, now all of a sudden they're back in the game. And giving a clear shot with absolutely no backup questions, no, dare I say, investigation, a very, very poor written and poorly covered BS story about the latest transaction, which involves, yes, Chapter 13 declaration by Ron and Jan as of last Thursday. So now they're back in the game without mentioning me, which is great because I love it. They just give me more ammo. But I'm not angry about that. My ego can survive that. Everybody's got an ego. My irritance is at the major parties here. Not Laura, because that's under a legal situation that is fluid. You're not supposed to talk. The lawyers tell you that. The lawyers, I have been told, were working pro bono. Then why do you need the GoFundMe? Medical expenses. I saw that. And I saw what you're spending. And now we figure out it's not just one lawyer. It's multiple lawyers. And me, constantly the recipient of people saying you must have been paid off. Yeah, I'm angry now. And you'd be too. And guess what? You'd be right too. But putting all of that aside, let's see. Ronn Owens, radio personality, Hall of Famer, I mentioned, Marconi winner, and all that. And a great public figure in his day in terms of not just the celebrity, he was a really, really dedicated, still alive, dedicated talk show host and entertainer and all of the above. Fantastic. Jan Black, anchor at KCBS and all that. And it's difficult. And I absolutely, before and after, I may add, I share their anxiety. I don't have kids. I can only imagine what they're going through, as I have said before. You could put out a persona of, oh, well, things are okay, and this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying that's the case. I really don't know. But I can feel their anxiety. I could just kind of see in my mind what they're going through. But sometimes you have to be a little bit more, shall we say, conciliatory and try to put out some fires that are legitimately out there with regards to the money and the finances. Again, where is this money going to? The GoFundMe money. Why was it set up? This was a couple that had a multi-million-dollar home in San Francisco, right there in Seacliff, not that far from Sharon Stone. Remember her, the actress? Moved to a $1.5 million home in Scottsdale, Arizona. That ain't cheap either. It might be probably cheaper than San Francisco, no doubt. Look, all my kvetching has to do with, again, I like clarity. I like transparency. You know, when you obfuscate around the truth and when you make parameters and all that make it difficult to go out there and sort of, at your own whim, stop talking to people who themselves have been embroiled in this indirectly, then you have another issue on your hands. You have a problem, like myself. Now, I am airing this grievance, not because I knew about this long ago, because now all of a sudden, a lot of these parties, they have their own special interest, and they go out of their way to present their own case, all the while ignoring the fact that, look, we all have issues in life. We do. But when it involves us, especially in my case, indirectly, I get angry. I get pissed. I've been trying to cover this story. It is a story now. It's been a story. But at the same time, trying to show a little bit of, what's the word? Pity. And there's a certain word. Somebody will help me with this. I see a whole bunch of people here on YouTube. So I understand the parties, some of them, there's a great degree of human drama here and human anxiety and there's a toll, and yeah, it's saucy case. It's a TMZ type of a story. You've got movie, got two very public people, one of whom used to be a mega celebrity in San Francisco with all the accolades and honors and hanging out with Willie Brown and the mayor and close to possibly the next president, Gavin Newsom, and the governor and his dad, the former appellate judge in San Francisco, the State Court of Appeal. And family whose daughter may have whatever she's accused of doing, and it being several men accused of things that don't look very good now from this angle and all others, one of whom is a public figure that may have perhaps even ruined his own image. All these tentacles. And this one guy here, it's a Hollywood movie, right, folks? Although I can go into that in another subject. So, where are we at now? There's another article in the Chronicle. You can access it online. It ran today. The pack mentality, the herd mentality of picking up stories that they had no business of wanting to cover until now. And I just wonder where they got that from. And then the Mercury News running something today, which is Tuesday. Excuse me, they ran it on Monday. The Chronicle was today. That's our press in the Bay Area, which again, I've been kvetching about. This is what we are reduced to. And those of you that are living in the Bay Area, you know I've been saying that. And they don't like me. That's good. I wouldn't like me either if I had to call out the crap that they put out every day. And you want to know something? As long as we're giving shit to the Chronicle and the Mercury, mostly the Chronicle. How about the TV stations? TV news stations. Nothing on this. Oh, they'll eventually come around because now that I've shamed them, which I do routinely, not because I want to, it's because have you seen what they do? Again, another broadcast. I'm dealing with this issue now. Not a word on this. Were they being sympathetic to Ron? Because many of them, or maybe people in management, had a cozy relationship with Ron, something I was accused of. And I have tried to put in a little delicate coverage of this all the while, saying I'm trying to be neutral and all that. They may sound, I know, some of you, that may sound too rosy-dozy and bullshitty, but it's the truth. But not one station has covered this. KQED, no. ABC 7, owned by Disney, no, not a word. KPIX, CBS 5, CBS News Bay Area, nothing. KRON, the Independent, owned by Nexstar station in San Francisco, Channel 4, nothing. Channel 3, NBC Bay Area, owned by, the Peacock Network. NBC, nothing. KTVU, Fox 2, owned by Fox, nothing. As I said, there'll be some story eventually because they don't want to be perceived as the nebulous, idiotic, incompetent, crass, crap, incompetent folks that they are. I'm being diplomatic, folks. Radio, not a word from the alleged ridiculous, pathetic KCBS, the used to be all news station in San Francisco, not a word. And then on the internet, I've already mentioned the Chronicle and their burrito loving. We found a red burrito in the Mission. Their restaurant, they ought to be called the restaurant site because that's all they talk about because they have no news to talk about unless it's picked up off of the wires by reporters who don't go out. They just sit around their computers, eat alfalfa sandwiches, who are about 28 years old, and pick their pimples. Nothing. That's what we're reduced to. Now, as far as Ron and Jan, and I have no doubt that they will see this, which is its intention. I just want clarity. I want some truthiness, to borrow a word that somebody brought up a few years ago. I forgot who. I know what you're going through. We all do, even the ones that are not so sympathetic. But there has to be something telling us where that money is. Where is that money? Did you ever at once give any of that money to the lawyers? Were there any kind of funds? I mean, for all I know, folks, obviously I'm not a lawyer. That money, once it is established, GoFundMe, I think that's your money. And I guess you could do whatever you want with it, right? Pay expenses that you claim that you had with very legitimate situations, health and all that, obstacles. I would say the Laura Owens legal situation is an obstacle. Okay, then clarify. I know it can't be done publicly, but get to the point. Level with somebody. And don't just call them or text them at your convenience when it's convenient to you to get your story out. And I'll tell you one thing, the Chronicle ain't going to be your friend. The Mercury News, all they do, they ought to be PR conduits for you guys. PR flax. That's all these articles provide. They're PR conduits. I just want to clarify. I want to tell the story. And I want the truth. Not your truth, not their truth, the truth. And if there is some truth or something that one does not want to be known and shared with an off the record type of stipulation, fine. We'll deal with that when we get to it. But you guys deserve the truth. You guys deserve clarity, and not just through the courts. But I get it. You can't talk about certain things. Got it. I know about it. You don't have to be a lawyer to know that. And yes, I am angry. I am pissed off because I don't like being used. Quote me. And I can touch my glasses and rub my bald Uncle Fester head and wear black and do all the shit that you want to belittle me for yourselves. But guess what? At the core still, I'm a human being too. Last I checked. Let me feel. Okay. I don't know why I did that, but I did it. Screw you. Folks, this is going to sound self-serving, but so be it. I'm not like Deep Throat. I'm not some person, whistleblower, calling out somebody for, fucking with old people, or car salesman, sold a bad car to an old lady and hit her over the head, metaphorically speaking, and all that. I'm just trying to provide a fundamental awakening of just where our press is, how our press operates. I've been kvetching about, and people belittled me for asking for donations so that I could pay the expenses required to keep this site going. This site being me, so that I can live and breathe and drink the same shitty coffee from 7-Eleven that you drink. I'm not looking to be a millionaire or go on French vacations and honeymoon in the Riviera with a woman that I have yet to meet who has vision and can see. I just deserve and ask for fairness and all of that. So when you get brought into the equation directly, mostly indirectly, and you have all this shit fall out of you, these false accusations, combined with the fact that the central characters conveniently fail to acknowledge you when it's not in their best interest, but only when they call you and reach out to you when it is in their best interest, then you have to do something like this, which I still debated on whether I should do or not. But finally, now, as I said, metaphorically speaking, the gloves had to come off. And I appreciate those of you who send me emails, Twitter, which I'm on Twitter. Go get them. Thank you, yada. And some of whom have sent some donations and all that. I appreciate that. And again, I'm not trying to come off as holier than thou. I am in the middle of this somehow, some way, not as central as the other characters, the players that are involved. So I'm sorry for a little bit of animation and anger, but it wasn't acting. It was and is legit. And I appreciate all of you who have come here and continue to come here. And I'm going to do my best to stay here. But one of the great things about not being beholden to special interests and advertisers potentially who tell you, please don't talk like that. We don't want to, meanwhile, being affiliated with nefarious characters. I'm not talking about this case. I'm talking in general. Anyway, I get a little frustrated. Yeah, I do. And a lot of you who have watched me in the Bay Area said, well, what's been going on with the pledge breaks? You suddenly stopped. No, I stopped for a reason, because I was trying to get out the word of situations like this that are wholly unique to me, and just trying to pay my bills so that I could stay alive, make sure the wires are wired and the microphone works and the computer is paid for with internet capabilities and all that. So enough of my little dalliances here, my personal peccadillos aside. I'm going to continue as long as I get support, as long as those of you who have tried to see what I have said. I know sometimes I branch off. My syntax isn't that great. My wardrobe is not in line with a Bob Mackey share meeting. I do my best to do fundamental shit, and I am consistent. I am consistent. And I will bitch and moan and kvetch at anybody and everything, probably at my own well-being. But I do so for a reason. Because damn, we have shit to learn in this world. Damn, have we absolutely, well, not we, all of us, some of you get it. Have we gone down such a lonely and bad road? Have we become so marginalized? And that involves the press. I used to think this massive anxiety attack and this hatefulness for the press and fake news and all of that shit, I used to think it was kind of overblown and not deserve it. And now that I've seen and actually worked years ago within that type of situation, I understand where a lot of you feel, which is one of the reasons why I'm here, to get through the bullshit, to try to reach that magical words, the truth. And I am not a perfect player myself, folks, but I do my best to try to give you an ounce of clarity and something to which you can see that you didn't get anywhere else. My email address is rich, R-I-C-H, dot Lieberman, Lieberman, rich.lieberman at gmail.com. If you want to send me a tip, if you want to correspond. My text alert, my own text number is area code 415-999, that's 3 9s, 4454. Women, no naked pictures. It's a joke. My website is rich.lieberman. I mentioned that already. I'm on YouTube, as long as they don't shut me down eventually. No, I'm just kidding. Why would they shut me down? Getting more and more. Look, and if you want to send a donation to help Rich deal with coffee issues and money so that he can buy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it's PayPal, and it's Rich Lieberman. Or you could just go to my Google page. And I appreciate those of you who have always told me, some of you, we disagree with you a lot, but we still watch you or read you when I used to write. I appreciate more than even people that agree with me. On this issue, though, I have certain, this is where I stand. So I hope I got that out. And some of this may or may not resonate with you, but I thought it needed to get out. Okay. I hope everybody has a great day. And yes, of course. See you later, alligator.